23 yards, so the man comes over from Tulane. And Iamaleava, that's another laser. It's Dante Thornton. Touchdown, Tennessee. Nico Iamaleava come into the stadium. Well, he starts 8 for 8, 97 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Man, it's a lot better the day after a win, and Tennessee is 1-0. Tennessee looked great. I mean, you couldn't really ask for a better game than what Tennessee gave us yesterday. Tennessee wins 69-3 over UT Chattanooga. And guys, I know UT Chattanooga is an FCS school, so if there's haters out there watching this video, I understand. I'm not gauging this game. We didn't play Georgia yesterday. I get that. But Tennessee did what they needed to do. They took care of an inferior opponent. And you know, I think everybody had their eyes on Nico in this game, on how he was going to look. And man, he did not disappoint. So, you know, let's look at these stats in this game, okay? They had over 500 total yards of offense at halftime. Nico did not play a snap after halftime. I thought that was really smart of Heupel. Do not get him hurt. Don't give him any, chance of messing up this season. If the game's out of hand, get him out of there. But we had over 500 total yards at halftime. We had over 400 yards total of passing offense all game long. We got Gaston Moore in there. We got Berklinger in there. Got them guys some playing time. Dylan Sampson had over 120 yards rushing. We had over 300 total yards rushing. So, and we had 700. We had over 700 total yards all game long. So, offensively, just dominant. Defensively, we kept them under 100 yards rushing. We didn't do anything special defensively. We kept everything kind of like, we didn't do anything blitzing or anything. It kept everything to the very bare minimum to not show NC State anything. So, but anyway, guys, man, I'm very, very happy with the result. I'm just excited about this team. I think the sky's the limit. Offensively, this is going to be a team that's going to be closer to the 2022 team, much more than last year's team, that's for sure. Let's talk about the players of the game in this game. First off, Nico. He had over 300 yards throwing the football, and he had that by halftime. He was crisp. He was on time. When you saw Milton last year, he threw behind receivers a lot, and he didn't lead them correctly. Nico had the perfect touch on the ball, especially those deep balls. And he just looked really, really good. He looked the part. So he's one of my players of the game. The other is Dante Thornton. Man, this guy I am so pleasantly surprised with him, and that receiver room is going to be so good this year. Chris Brazzell, Dante Thornton, Squirrel White, and Brew McCoy, and the list goes on and on. I mean, we've got other guys too, but just those 4 guys right there. I mean, Tennessee's got as good a receiver room as there is in the country, and that's a fact. Dylan Sampson is another player of the game. He's another guy that did not play after halftime. He had over 120 yards rushing himself. Tennessee rushed for over 300 yards against UT Chattanooga. So Tennessee is looking really good after week 1 with that 69-3 win over UT Chattanooga. Now let's talk about the SEC power ratings, okay? I've got Georgia at number 1 right now. Georgia looked the part. They kind of struggled at first with Clemson offensively a little bit, and I thought they would. That's what I said they would do. I thought Clemson defensively is not that bad, but as time wore on, you saw Georgia kind of wear them out and kind of pull away, and they took care of Clemson really easily. And then number 2, I got Texas. Texas did what Texas needed to do, beat an inferior opponent in Colorado State, and they won 52-0. So I've got them at number 2 in the power ratings. Ole Miss beat a Furman team 52-0. Ole Miss threw for over 400 yards, and they limited Furman to only 124 total yards of offense. So Ole Miss looked really good. Alabama looked really good. I know they just played Western Kentucky, not a great team, but they did exactly what they needed to do. They just dominated. I mean, they ran the ball really, really well, and they just dominated Western Kentucky in every facet of the game. this Kalen DeBoer offense, they look better than they did last year. And I know it's kind of hard to gauge it off just one game, but they look in sync. I thought Milroe looked really good. And Alabama fans have to be pleased after week one. Tennessee, I talked about them earlier, but I'm talking about them again here. Over 700 yards. He had 500 yards at halftime. Nico is a huge upgrade over Joe Milton. A couple side notes on him too. I thought the tight end Ethan Davis, the new guy in our, he's actually been there. He's been waiting in the wings, Ethan Davis, but I thought he looked really good catching the ball. He's been doing a lot of good things in the scrimmages too. Dante Thornton, Dylan Sampson had monster games. You're going to have to score a lot of points to beat this Tennessee team in 2024, and that's just a fact. Missouri, I thought Missouri looked really good. They beat Murray State 51-0. And Missouri's defense kept Murray State under 100 total yards of offense in this game. Oklahoma looked really good. They had Temple turn the ball over 4 times in that game. I saw their defense fly all over the field. Jackson Arnold had a great touch on the football down in the red zone. I think I've underrated Oklahoma a bit. After seeing them play, I was pretty impressed with them. So I got Oklahoma at 7. LSU at 8, and LSU. I haven't seen LSU play. They play tonight, so I mean, they could be higher next week. So we'll see how they do against USC. SEC is just such a tough conference with so many teams. That Tennessee, Missouri, LSU, that kind of area right there, Oklahoma. It's kind of a toss-up. With those teams right now until they can prove that they can be one of the upper echelon teams. So that list right there will fluctuate until somebody definitely proves themselves. A&M, A&M lost to a really good Notre Dame team last night. I really struck. I was really wondering why they couldn't throw the ball more effectively, though. I thought Connor Wegman would do better with getting the ball down the field, and they really struggled with throwing the football on that Notre Dame defense. Notre Dame's really good, though. So if I'm an A&M fan, I'm not really worried right now. Notre Dame has a top 10 defense. They have a really good quarterback in Riley Leonard. So A&M fans, don't freak out. I think you're going to be okay. So anyway, but I do have A&M at number 9. Kentucky is exactly what at number 10. Kentucky is exactly what I thought they'd be. They dominate time of possession. They had the ball twice as many minutes as Southern Miss did in this game, where they won 31-0. Vandegrift threw 2 TDs to Barry and Brown. And they limited Southern Miss to 5 yards rushing. So you saw that front 7 for Kentucky just kind of dominate the running game. And that's what Kentucky's going to have to do to win football games this year. Throw the football, those 2 really good receivers in Key and Brown. Stop people with your front 7, limit the running game. And they can win a lot of football games this year. Auburn at number 11. They won 73-3. The one thing about Auburn that really killed them last year was throwing the football. Well, in this game, and I know it was against Alabama A&M, but they threw for over 400 yards. So that is a trend in the right direction. They brought in some transfers and from different schools, and they made an immediate impact in this game. And I think Peyton Thorne is very happy that they went out and they beefed up that wide receiver room. But I've got Auburn at number 11. Arkansas was a huge surprise this week. They were 10 out of 10 on their first 10 possessions. TDs. They didn't score field goals. They scored TDs. So their first 10 possessions were all touchdowns. I'm telling you, that Taylor Green is the real deal. He's electric. He ran for over 100 yards. I think he threw for nearly 200, or he threw for over 200 yards. So he's really, really good. And that game in Fayetteville for Tennessee is not looking as automatic as a win. So I'm glad we have an open date before the game at Arkansas. I know they just beat Arkansas Palm Bluff, which is an FCS school. But listen, dude, when you go 10 for 10 and you score, a touchdown on your first 10 possessions, that's really, really good. Man, how about Vanderbilt at number 13? Vanderbilt, they really took care Virginia Tech in this game. I mean, who would have expected? I mean, I know Vanderbilt was only a 13, I think, point underdog, but that whole stadium was nothing but Virginia Tech fans. So they were basically playing on the road, I felt like. And then that new quarterback, Diego Pavia, he is a transfer from New Mexico State, and this guy is the real deal. He's the same quarterback when he was at New Mexico State that went down to Auburn and pulled that upset last year at Auburn. And he can really make a lot of plays. Vandy was only projected to win 3 games this year. That was the over-under that Vegas had them at. They're definitely going to go over 3 games. This team can maybe win a bowl game, maybe, if they could pick another game off here and there. And they've got 3 automatic wins, so they're definitely going to be at 4 wins. So if they can win another game or 2, they could be bowl eligible. Mississippi State, one thing I noticed about this Mississippi State team, they're much more balanced offensively in this Jeff Lebby system. They had like over 200 yards rushing and throwing, so that's a good trend in the right direction. They're going to play Arizona State next week on the road, so if they can go up there, and Arizona State's not that great, they're one of the bottom teams in that division, so I think Mississippi State can go up there and they can win that game, and man, if they could start the season off 2-0, that would be huge for their program. South Carolina, they did not look good. They were outgained by Old Dominion at home. Really couldn't throw the ball very well. Even running the ball, it wasn't that great. So they've got Kentucky next week at Lexington. It does not look good for South Carolina. They better figure something out this week, or it could be a really rough time in Lexington. And then at number 16, Florida, man, they just looked awful. And I was kind of high on Florida. I said, they have a tough schedule, but you know what? Florida has got still a decent team with Graham Mertz and Montrell Johnson. I thought, Shamar James at linebacker, they would be a decent team. But man, Miami just chopped them up into pieces. They just destroyed them. They couldn't cover the receivers. They could not move the ball on that Miami defense, and it was just a blowout. It was complete domination from Miami from beginning to end. It really surprised me that Florida got beat like that in Gainesville at home against an in-state opponent. I had Florida actually winning this game, but boy, was I wrong. I think 2 things happened here. I think, one, Miami is better than we gave them credit for, at least I did, and the other thing is Florida's just not that good. And this schedule's too hard to figure things out. They get Samford next week, but Billy Napier's gone, guys. He's gone. I'll be surprised if he makes it past the Kentucky game or the Tennessee game this year, midway through the year. It's going to get ugly in Gainesville. But anyway, that is my power ranking 1 through 16 of the SEC after week 1. LSU, guys, I'm sorry. I'm doing this on Sunday morning, so I didn't get to see you all play, but I'll have you updated next week. But anyway, guys, I'll talk to you later.